Dr. Reina Thomas, Principal, Marthoma College, Dr. Raji Thomas, HOD, IQAC Coordinator, and Gay, Marthoma College, and other dignitaries and participants of this webinar all throughout the country. I am Baijuman P., Assistant Professor and Head of the Postgraduate Department of Commerce, Government College Malappuram, and Research Scholar, Marthoma College Chungatara. It is my pleasure and privilege to welcome, on behalf of everyone, to this most enriched academic deliberation. I am very proud and excited to welcome the chair of today's webinar, my own honorable principal and well-wisher, Dr. K.K. Damodaran, Principal, Government College Malappuram, who decorates various positions of Higher Education Council member, Association of Kerala Government College Teachers, or AKGCT former General Secretary, IFECTO National Secretary. He is a well-renowned academician as well as an orator who has 26 years of teaching experience at various government colleges, including PTM Government College Perindalmanna, Government Arts and Science College Trivandrum, and Government College Malappuram. He has obtained his PhD on topic the role of South Malabar Grameen Bank in the rural development of Kerala in 2012 from MG University. We are very blessed to have such an eminent personality to chair our today's session, and on behalf of all of our participants, I welcome Dr. K.K. Damodaran sir to chair today's session. Sir, I humbly welcome you. It's my pleasure and privilege to welcome the resource person of today's session, Professor Dr. B. Vijaychandran Pillai, former Head of the Department of Commerce and Management Studies, University of Calicut, to handle the session, Ethics in Social Science Research, in this webinar, Diffusion 2020. He has 36 years of experience in teaching postgraduate classes and a person who has served as the head of the Department of Commerce and Management Studies, Dean of MG University, Director and Coordinator of various academic bodies, etc. A person who has guided 19 PhD theses and has an altogether research experience of 32 years, who has authored 16 books and publications, 185 research, and has a membership in various academic and professional bodies, and moreover, a down-to-earth personality and my own mentor and motivator of all times, and an academician with a human touch who is always ready to extend whole support to the budding researchers like us. On behalf of this entire academic community, I welcome Professor Dr. Vijaychandran Pillai to handle today's session.
Okay.
I welcome our principal, Dr. Reina Thomas, our head IQAC coordinator, research supervisor, and the brain behind this webinar, Dr. Raji Thomas sir, and all participants all throughout our country to enjoy this wonderful academic experience. I once again welcome our resource person. Sir, welcome you. Welcome all the participants to this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to invite Dr. K.K. Damodaran, Principal, Government College, Malappuram, here, of Higher Education Council, sponsored by Government of Kerala. He is a leader of Teachers Organization, present National Secretary of IFECTO. He has a teaching experience of 25 years, an eminent orator and very active in for chairing the session. Sir, please.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes. Okay. respected dignitaries on the dais, my dear friend and colleague, Mr. Baijumon, and Raju Thomas there. He's my classmate also. I am very happy and feel honored that I have been invited to chair an academic session of a good college in the district, Marthoma College. As all of us are knowing well, we are forced to confine to our safety walls as the threat of corona pandemic is spiraling every day. What is a sign of relief is that most of the educational institutions around the world and also in the country have started functioning at least in an alternative way. Actually, the academic community is the force, or the academic community is responsible to act first in a situation like this. We have to bear the torch of courage and also the torch of direction to the rest of the society as to how to succumb, how to overcome the tussle with the coronavirus. Almost all colleges and universities have started functioning, even even though it is in the online mode. My college is also it was also functioning like the rest of the colleges, but in the last month our college was uh, taken away by the health authorities for converting it into a first line COVID treatment center. And it is understood that today or tomorrow, the college will start admitting patients instead of students in this season. And anyway, we are happy to resume our academic activities even in this very hasty atmosphere. Today's academic session is related with research ethics. Actually, I am nobody to say anything about the ethics of the research activities. The only experience that I have with research is the one that I did with my PhD. And beyond that, I haven't made any attempts to, or I have not tried to beat that path. Anyway, ethics being a very generic term, we can understand. Even a non-researcher or a person who has no experience with research can understand what is ethics. Anyway, ever since the talk about ethics has started, the researchers community is under panic. And it is especially so after the emergence of the plagiarism software and the insistence of UGC for the administration of that software for every publication that is done by the students. They are under panic. They are not about the notion that they are following in their research, but they are always fearful of the sword that is hanging in the form of this plagiarism check at the final stage of their thesis. Anyway, what I want to say to them is that don't worry, the only thing they have to keep in mind is that we, the academics, must be honest always. We have to be honest in our academic activities, whether it is in teaching, whether it is in learning also, and writing, or doing research. What is academic honesty is a big question. Anyway, the very brief answer to this question is that doing right thing, even if nobody is watching you. You try to do only right thing, even when nobody is looking to you whether you are doing anything or something. So that is the thing that we have to keep in mind while pursuing any sort of academic activities. And one more thing that I have to add along with these few words is that the ethics is not only applicable for the students. Actually, this is applicable to the teachers, the supervisors, and also the institutions who are hosting the work of the students. There are many instances of breaching the academic ethics and academic honesty by the teachers, supervisors, and also the institutions. See, our Calicut University in the last September, there was a student absurd. Two names of two teachers, one from botany department and also from Malayalam department, were frequently heard in relation to that. Actually, the students raised a critical, a very critically important issue that two teachers were torturing their wards, and those were, see, the wards were hailing from scheduled caste community. And this is not an isolated stray event. It is very frequent in the higher education sector. And some institutions are also very notorious in this field. For example, the Hyderabad University, Central University, we know the case of Rohit Vemula. And also we know the case of Fatima Latif of this Madras IIT. All these are the questions of equally vehement questions of academic ethics, research ethics, and also of academic honesty. What I am trying to tell you is that the academic honesty is not a single-sided sword, or it is not solely applicable to the students only. It is applicable to the entire academic world. It is applicable to students, teachers, institutions, administrators, and also lawmakers. So I'm not lengthening my speech. I wish all success to this endeavor by the Marthoma College, and also I'm very happy to meet Vijayendran sir in this session, and I wish all success and also register my humble gratitude for having me invited to this session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now we have the most awaited session. I am very happy to introduce our resource person, Dr. B. Vijay Chandran Pillai, retired professor, Department of Commerce and Management Studies, University of Calicut, Kerala. Specialized in accounting, finance, human resource management, and marketing. He has a teaching experience of 36 years, former head of the Department of Commerce and Management Studies, Dean Faculty of Commerce, Management Mahatma Gandhi University. He has a research experience of 32 years. He produced 19 PhDs and 8 research scholars are now pursuing research under him. In his credit, he has worked publication, written 16 books and 47 chapters. He is a member in various board of studies and committees and professional bodies of several universities. He is a member of editorial board of several magazines. Sir, please.
Okay. Very warm good afternoon to all. Most respected chairman of this session, and my best friend, Dr. K.K. Damodar, the principal of the Government College in Malappuram. Dr. Reena Thomas, principal of Marthoma College, Shuddhatara. My friend, Dr. Rajiv Thomas, the present head of the Department of Commerce, Marthoma College, Shuddhatara. Former colleague and my best friend, Dr. Gopalakrishnan. Other faculty members of the college. Then my dear teacher friends from various institutions all over India and even outside India. My dear research scholars. As our chairperson has rightly pointed out that this is a time of COVID-19 pandemic. So that we are witnessing different type of webinars instead of seminars. So I understood that Marthoma College is also very sincere in organizing a very, very useful and a very creative seminar on a very worthy topic, namely research methodology, incorporating all the relevant areas of this research methodology. So before entering into my duty, it is my pleasant duty to appreciate the efforts taken by the members of the organizing committee under the leadership of Dr. Rajiv Thomas for taking initiative in organizing a very wonderful seminar on a very creative topic. So I extend my sincere congratulations and appreciation to the organizers. Similarly, I will fail my duty if I do not acknowledge my thanks for having invited me to spare some time with you for sharing my thought about a particular topic. So I am highly thankful to the organizers of this seminar for your invitation to me to this program. You know, research methodology is a very worthy topic. I have already mentioned you that this seminar has incorporated very, very relevant topics covering all the aspects of research methodology. That is identification of research problem, literature review, application of statistical tools for research, social science research, then application of SPSS for data analysis, then report writing. Up to this area, the previous sessions have covered with the help of eminent personalities in the relevant field. Now, two more areas. You know, these two areas have a specific or unique nature that these two areas are not usually covered by research methodology. But you know, nowadays the importance of these two areas, namely ethics as well as plagiarism, has been very, very significant. Why? Because now there are chances for many manipulations, unlike the previous years. You know, my topic is research ethics in social science. What are all the ethical principles that the research scholars have and to observe while doing the research from the beginning till the end? This is my area of discussion. You know, the welcome speaker has introduced me that I have 32 years of experience. I remember when I was a research scholar in University of Kerala at the Department of Commerce in 1989, only few students did the PhD. During those days, the facilities available in the department were very, very limited because no computers, photocopy machine has introduced, but very costly. So during those days, whenever we go to anywhere, any library, the only alternative is to prepare the materials by our own hand, Nowadays, the situation has changed. Now you are enjoying very creative electronic mode of communication form. Now what is happening, whenever a student enters into the library, he or she need not take any photocopy. He can take the copies of the entire pages of the PhD thesis in his small equipment called mobile phone. This is a situation that we are experiencing. You know, because of which what happened, there are chances for manipulations in the field of research. So ethics is highly inevitable. Ethics is inevitable not only for the Academic community, it is also for non-academic people. If you look at the things, you can see that we start learning of ethics from our family. Our parents will teach us ethics in our childhood. Thereafter, when we enter into school, our teachers will teach some ethics. Then when we go to the places of public worship like churches, mosques, and temples, definitely they are also centers of ethics. We will learn ethics from these institutions, religious institutions. Then after completing our education, when we join in a organization for employment, in our workplace also, we will learn some ethics. Definitely, I have noticed one important point that it is very inevitable. Without ethics, we cannot win success. Whether he is a student, whether he is a teacher, whether he is an officer, whether he is a manager, or whatever post he or she holds, surely ethics is very mandatory requirement for all the community. So I remember one best example when I was HOD during the year, during 2015-17, I was HOD because in university department, headship will rotate for every 2 years, it will change. My turn was during 15-17. After admission, I remember one particular incident. Normally, I used to enter my department by 8 o'clock in the morning every day. And I leave the office only after 7:30 evening. That was my practice. One day, I witnessed a particular event that we have foreign students in both MCOM and MBA classes. One day, when I entered into the gate, nearly 5 students are sitting on the steps of our department. Then I thought, who is sitting? Because I am the first person who entered in the department every day. So somebody has overtaken me. Who are they? When I reached nearby them, I understood that they are our students. They are all foreign students. Then I thought that when I reached nearby them, they will stand. What they did, they remained there without any change. So I asked one basic question. Who are you? Sir, what a question you are asking to us. Again, I asked another question. Are you students of this department? Sir. Then I asked one more question. Do you know me? Sir, you are our head of the department. Okay, you stand up. I ordered. Again, all the students have they stand up, and then I said, do one thing. You come to my cabin by 3 o'clock today because I will arrange a meeting of the foreign students. So I have informed the leaders of the classroom that a meeting will be convened at 3 o'clock in my cabin. Every student should come. All the foreign students should come to my cabin. So when they came to my department, my cabin, 3 students occupied the chair without getting my permission. Again, I asked one question. You stand up? I didn't give the direction to sit there. Without getting my permission, how can you sit there? Sorry, sir. Okay. Then again, I ordered, you can sit there. No problem, you can sit there. Then I said, I asked one question. Do you respect your elders in your country? Do you respect your parents? Do you respect your teachers? 3 questions I asked. Then I didn't get any answer from them. Why? Because the ethics they follow significantly differs from us. So then I understood their situation because this is their ethics. Again, I have given certain instructions to them. This is Kerala, this is India. We have our own ethics, beliefs, rules and regulation, code of conduct. So as long as you are here, you should obey the teachers, the non-teaching staff. You should cooperate with your students. You should attend all the classes. You should not leave the class without the permission of the teacher. So I have given certain directions to them. Then thereafter I said that these are all our principles. So since you are a student in this department, you have to follow all these principles. When a teacher enters into the classroom, you should respect. Whenever a teacher give any assignment, you are supposed to submit the assignment. In the examination, you should be very punctual. Otherwise, you will not pass. So I have verified their behavior after 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. What happened? After 2-3 months, they are just like our students. They are cooperating. They started cooperating with all the students, all the teachers, non-teaching staff. Whenever we organize any program, they are in the forefront, not in back. So this means that there is no generally accepted definition for ethics. So what is ethics? Simply ethics means some moral principles, some values, some norms, which determines which one is right, which one is wrong. So unless we know these principles, you may not be able to identify which one is right, which one is wrong. So what will happen? We will be quite unethical. You know, if ethics are there, definitely it influences the behavior of individual. You just see the family members. If all the members in a family are highly ethical, definitely there will be great progress in that family. If the parents are very sincere in advising and giving proper direction in time, surely the children will become ethically oriented. They will become good citizens in the future. Likewise, the teachers. A teacher should be ethically or correct. Teacher should enter into the classroom in right. Teacher should prepare very well. Teacher should refer only standard textbooks. Teacher should give assignments. Teacher should evaluate the purpose in time. Teacher should cooperate with the university authorities for publishing the results in time. Otherwise, how can we treat as a teacher as very ethical? Definitely, ethics varies from individual to individual. Let us see what is meant by ethics. My area is what is meant by research ethics. Why research ethics are essential for the research community? Ethics are essential for research community. What are all the fundamental principles that every researcher have to follow for conducting this responsible research work? Then what are ethical practices? In each stage of research, what are unethical practices on the part of a researcher? These are the areas that I am going to cover. I know I have already mentioned to you that this is not a topic in your syllabus till very recently. But nowadays, the University Grants Commission as well as AICT has made an amendment that every student, if a particular student wants to join for PhD, he has to undergo one paper by name Research Ethics and Publications in coursework suggested by the concerned university. Every university is supposed to incorporate that paper. That means without knowing the research ethics and publication ethics, no researcher can win the PhD. This is a situation that we are experiencing. Then coming into the area, these are all the results of my experience. I have I had guideship in 5 universities, 2 foreign universities and 3 Indian universities, 2 in Kerala. 36 students have registered under my guidance for PhD work. 20 students have completed successfully. I have learned many lessons by guiding the students as well as a student of PhD during my academic research work. So what I am going to do is, I am going to share my experiences in each stage of research, what a researcher has to observe, while doing the research work, while completing the research work. So, Shyam.
Okay. Kaushik, just a second. Okay. Then this one. Okay.
Okay. Sure.
Is it visible?
Yes,
This
sir.
slide is visible or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, correct, sir.
അല്ല അതെ മറ്റേ
Okay, coming into the research ethics, there are no standard definitions for research ethics. Research ethics are basic values, certain norms, certain guidelines, certain code of conduct applicable for the researchers in order to complete the responsible research work. I have already mentioned to you that in order to complete the research work, definitely a researcher has to observe certain basic values, certain norms, certain code of conduct, certain guidelines from the beginning till the end. Everybody knows that research is concerned with the creation of new knowledge. It starts from the selection of a creative topic and ends with the report writing. In between these two stages, we have to face lot of stages like after selection of topic, we have to define the research problem, identify the research problem. Then we have to delimit the area of study through the ambit of limiting the ambit of the study. Thereafter, we finalize the specific objectives. And to ensure there is no study in this particular area by previous researchers, we conduct a research literature survey. Thereafter, we identify the research gap. Then we continue the research through the systematic methodology. Thereby, we determine the sources of data, determine the sampling size, sampling method, tool for data collection, tool for data analysis, then data collection, then analysis with the help of suitable tools, then finding certain solution based on the findings and the conclusions of the study. Definitely in each stage, every researcher is supposed to obey certain rules, certain professional code of conduct. Otherwise, how can we say that he is a genuine researcher? So generally, you can say that research ethics are the basic values, the norms, the guidelines, the code of conduct, the professional code of conduct, which the researcher has to adhere during the course of his responsible research work. Let us see why research work, research ethics are important. I have already mentioned you that even without observing the ethics, you can complete. But this is not what we expect. You are supposed to observe or adhere some ethics during the course of your research work. Definitely, it is mainly because of certain reasons. Why? I have identified certain points. Why research ethics are very essential. Number one is norms of the statutory bodies like UGC and the AICT. The UGC and the AICT now introduced a particular regulation that every student who is going to register for PhD, whether part-time or full-time, have to appear one paper at the time of his coursework examination. The name of the paper is Research and Publication Ethics. Because fundamental knowledge on research and publication ethics is a very, very essential to complete the work. Secondly, why ethics are essential. The second important point I have notified is definitely research ethics helps the researcher to ensure a high ethical standards in his research work. That means if the researcher adopts proper ethics throughout his study, surely it ensures high ethical standards in his research work. So ethical standards can be ensured only through adhering a research ethics. So it is mandatory. The third point is, it is inevitable to achieve the aims of research. Everybody knows that when we do the research, surely we will be able to acquire certain skills as well as knowledge. The prime aim of the research is improvement in knowledge in the topic, improvement in the horizon of knowledge. Not only that, if you do the research, definitely it will motivate you to acquire certain skills like problem solving skill. You will be able to solve the problem very systematically, very scientifically, the skill you can acquire. Similarly, analytical skill. A researcher cannot be compared with a non-researcher. A person with a research bent of mind cannot be compared with a person with a non-research mind. But because definitely researcher has very good quality of analytical mind. Likewise, learning skills. You can learn everything, anything related to the subject. You will get a very good skill of writing while completing the research work. Similarly, communicating as well as reporting skills. You can communicate very well, you can report very well, you can speak very well. Ultimately, your personality development, it will lead to your personality development. Remember, all these are the ultimate aim of research. You will be able to achieve all these results provided you rightly follow the ethics. So it is inevitable to achieve these. Without shortcut, we may not be able to achieve success. So this is another important point why ethics are essential for researchers. Next point is accountability of the researchers. Whenever we do a wrong, surely we are accountable. You remember, a particular person is accountable only if there are hard and fast rules and regulations. Otherwise, how can we punish him? How can we take action against him? In the research, everybody knows that a researcher makes use of public money. Whenever you complete UGC examination, you will get UGC JRF or UGC grant. Otherwise, you will get university grant from university. Other is you can apply for ICSR scholarship. You will get a scholarship from ICSR. Likewise, science and technology, many institutions are offering financial support to the research scholars. So definitely research scholar makes use of public money. He is accountable. How can we accountable to him unless there are some rules, ethical rules, norms, principles, regulations he follows? It is not possible. So it is very essential for the accountability of the researchers. Another point I have identified is it helps to ensure that public can trust research work. You know, research work is a very creative one. It has its own reputation. It has its own acceptability among the government, even among the general public. If you do a research work, definitely it will be accepted by general public. Why they accept your work? Why they consider you as a very respectable person after completing your research work? Definitely because you are observing some ethical principles while doing the research. Only because of that adherence of ethical principles during the course of your research work, they are giving due respect and consideration and acceptance to you. This is another point I have developed. Another point I have developed is the research ethics are highly helpful for the contribution of innovative research outcomes. We have already seen that research is a creative work. Why? Because we are selecting a creative topic. We are following scientific methodology to find a solution. The solution is a very creative one. You cannot see that solution anywhere in the world. That is a uniqueness of the research solution. How do we find a creative solution? Through the application of scientific methodology, only by adhering the research ethics. Only by adhering research ethics, you will be able to contribute to some very creative outcome for and on behalf of the general public. That is very important thing. Lastly, research ethics support the social and moral values. You know, everyone is supposed to have some social and moral values. Otherwise, it will create a lot of problems to others also. If a person does not possess moral and social values, definitely it will create a lot of problems to others. We will not respect others. He will not be fair in every respect. So he can perfectly behave with others. Through his application of his research ethics, he can fairly, he can fare in every respect because of this ethics. So these are all some of the important points which arise the need and importance of ethics. Next point that I am going to discuss is what are all the fundamental ethical principles in social science research. You know, while doing social science research, this is applicable source science only. Every social science researcher is supposed to apply certain fundamental principles. Let us see one by one. I have already mentioned to you that these points that I have developed only out of my experience. Thereafter, I have referred to some secondary materials also. Then I have suited to this according to my experience. First one is the first principle that every researcher has to observe is permission from the authority of the institution. You take the case of research in social science. Every research is related to the institution, whether it is related to financial institution or non-financial institutions, banks, life insurance area, or mutual fund company, or whatever it may be, whether it is finance or marketing or HR, whatever it may be, the IT companies, it is related to institution. Thereafter, you are thinking about the respondents like customers or employees like that. Whatever it may be, it is related to institution, their employees, their customers, surely, ultimately. So how do we collect data from them? We need data from them, otherwise we may not be able to complete the research work. So in order to complete the research work, we have to get permission from the head of the institution. Without getting permission from the institution, you are not supposed to collect any data from any institution. This is the first ethical principle that every researcher has to keep in mind. Second one is duty to inform properly. Definitely, there are many people who involve the research work. The research work is possible only through the support, cooperation, sincerity, loyalty, dedication on the part of some other persons. Otherwise, we may not be able to complete the research work. We need support, help from various people. So it is our moral obligation that to reveal exactly what is the correct picture about our work. We should inform properly about the area of research that we are going to conduct. This is the area of my research. We should clearly indicate. We should clearly explain to them. Similarly, the purpose of our research. These are the objectives of my research. If there is any funding agency like UGC, we should mention UGC grant fund to me. So it is a funding agency, or ICSR is a funding agency. We should clearly indicate. Thereafter, the name of the respondents from whom we have to collect data. We should inform the head of the institution that we need the service of your customers. We need the service of your employees. They are our respondents. My respondents are your employees or your customers. Then we should explain about the usefulness of the study results. You have to explain that if after the completion study, definitely it will yield a good result. That will be useful for the society. So your cooperation is very essential. That should be understood by the respondents. Then only they will give data. So these are all the points we should inform them in order to get data from them. Nextly, a very important principle or the ethics which every researcher has to follow is voluntary participation. Remember, your respondents are very responsible people. They are very busy. They have their own duties in their office or in their workplace. You don't compel them to collect data. What is very important is you just voluntarily cooperate. You get data voluntarily from their side. You need not compel them. So without any compulsion from your side, remember, you should collect data voluntarily. The cooperation of the participant should be very voluntarily. You need not compel. You never compel them. So voluntary participation is very important thing. Another thing is no harm to anyone. Remember, the research scholars, by doing research, your work should not become any harm to anybody. It should be reasonably free from any emotional or physical harm to others. Sometimes, if you go to the office by collecting data, very frequently you come and approach them, definitely it create a lot of problems. Sometimes they may say that this time I am not free. Do one thing, you come after 2 weeks or 2-3 weeks. Thereafter, what you have to do? You have to obey their request. You come only after 3 weeks or 2 weeks. Then only they will be tension free. Otherwise, it will create a lot of problems because they have their own busy schedule of work as per the directions of their head of the institution. Similarly, your questions, everything is very manageable to answer. Question is very manageable to answer. No opportunity to create any stress among the data providers. They can respond according to their opinion. Leave them very freely. Otherwise, it is very harmful to them. So be careful. Your work, your going, your contact, your interference will not anyway create any problem, any harm to anyone related with your research. That is a very ethical principle that you should keep in mind. Another point is honesty. It is a personal quality. Honesty. Everybody knows. I need not explain about that point. You should be honest throughout your research work. Regarding collection of data, reporting data, method presentation, everywhere, you should 100% honest. You don't cheat your respondents, your colleagues, your funding agencies. Sometimes some students who enjoy the UGC fund, they are very unethical without submitting the report in time. It is unethical practice. If you enjoy the facility of financial support from any agency, you are supposed to submit the report within the stipulated time as per the regulations. Similarly, as per the regulation, you are supposed to submit that bill in time. Otherwise, they will not be responsible. This is unethical. So do one thing. You should be very honest. You act according to their direction. You don't be very dishonesty. Sincerely collect data. Sincerely behavior. Not any. Don't show any kind of dishonesty on your part while doing the research work. Next point is integrity and quality. You should be very integrity. What is integrity? That means you keep your all agreements always without any change. If you agree that I will come to your office only once in a week. If you give me any data, I will not publish it, sir. I will not discuss with others. That integrity you should keep till the completion of your research work. And you should also ensure the quality of research work also. Because quality is very important thing. So that we should ensure. Next thing is openness. What do you mean by openness? This is another important, very essential quality required for a researcher. That is, be open to criticism and new idea. Because without criticism, how can we improve? Nowadays, UGC, very recently, UGC has introduced one more scheme as far as our research scholars are concerned. That is, every research scholar is supposed to submit the research work, present the research work before an elite audience, before submission of the thesis. That is what pre-submission seminar. Why this pre-submission seminar is being conducted by various universities? Only because that to ensure the quality of the research work. That means if the researcher presents the work done by himself with the help of his research scholar guide, surely it may be subject to certain limitations. The audience may have their own very creative suggestions with which to enhance the quality content of the research work. That will be possible. So be very open. You enjoy the criticism because you consider this is a very good opportunity so that you can improve your standard, quality of research work. You share your idea, tool, resource with others. Then only you can improve your research work, quality of research work. Another important point that every researcher has to keep in mind is respect for intellectual property is very, very important thing. In all research, there are some intellectual property rights, some models in case of social science, some models may be, some companies may have their own copyright, patent right. You give honor. Do you honor patents, copyrights, and other forms of intellectual property? Do not publish data without their permission. That is very, very important thing. Whenever you get a model which is developed by some other very reputed institution or agency, you can make use of that data only with their permission. You don't publish that data without their permission. So we should respect the intellectual property. That is very, very important thing. Another principle, ethical principle that every researcher has to keep in mind is anonymity of the respondents. It should be anonymous. That means, that is why, in our questionnaire or interview schedule, we never give the name of the respondent. Because if we put the name, definitely there are opportunity for revealing the identity of the concerned respondent. No. Every researcher should keep the identity of the concerned respondent very strictly confidential. That is anonymous. It should not be revealed. Similarly, confidentiality of the data that you collect from various respondents, the communications you have made with them, the discussions that you have made with them, you never reveal with others because it is purely confidential. It is the duty, responsibility of the researcher to keep all the materials, all the discussion, all the results till the completion of research work to keep us very confidential. Another point is impartial. No partiality shall be shown by any researcher to any particular person or a particular group. Whenever we enter into any office, any particular unit for collecting data, we should treat all of them are equal. No partiality shall be shown to any particular person or a group. That is very, very important ethical principle as far as a researcher is concerned. Then 3 more principles are very relevant. That is legality. Legality means every researcher is supposed to know all the rules and regulations of the concerned institution regarding the research. Whenever we do a research on a particular government institution, we should know what are the government restrictions, what are the government rules, what are the government policies, what are the regulations there. So considering all these regulations, considering the limitation of the regulations, you can interfere, you can collect. Unless you know all these regulations, how can you conduct your research work? How can you? That means it is unethical. Sometimes, without understanding the regulation, this is our office time. Normally, certain officers will not allow any visitors till 12:30. Normally, visitors are allowed only after 2:30. In such a situation, if you know, definitely we will take an appointment only after 2:30 because it is a time allowed. Suppose you don't know the regulation regarding that, what you will do? You will go to the office by 11 o'clock. It is a disturbance for them. So this is not what we expect. Another very essential ethics, fundamental ethics for every research is greater social responsibility. That means social responsibility is very important. Every researcher is supposed to give some social output to satisfy the society. Whatever be the topic that we take for research, it should yield some social benefits. Otherwise, how can we say that it is socially useful? The stakeholders may be different types. So maximum satisfaction to the stakeholder will be our aim. Then dissemination of information. That means it is a duty of the researcher to disclose the findings to all the responsible authorities of the research area. I still remember my area was on fire industry. That is the role of government agencies in the development of fire industry. I have taken both central government agencies as well as state government agencies. Frequently, I will meet the higher officers for discussions, various aspects of research. Finally, when I completed my work, I have discussed with them, these are the major findings. Whether these findings are genuine, any modification, any improvement, I got because I have discussed with when I have discussed with them, I got a lot of information which will be useful for my research work. So dissemination is also, these are all the fundamental principles that every researcher have to keep in mind. Next area of our discussion is a very important thing. How do we exercise ethics in different stages of research work practically? We are doing research work. In every stage, what are all the ethical points that every researcher should have and observe? Let us see from the first stage of selection of topic selection. Everybody knows topic selection is the first stage. What are all the ethical points that every researcher has to keep in mind while selecting the topic? Because of time constraints, I will go very fast. Otherwise, I may not be able to complete this area within the stipulated period of time. What are all the ethics, what we should keep while selecting a topic? Don't select a topic which is researched by others. Select a topic only socially relevant. Whatever topic you select, it should have social relevance. Then, as far as possible, select very creative and micro topics, because now it is a period of micro research, not macro. One minute area. You can choose a minute area. You can choose a creative area. You can choose a socially relevant area for which you have to go through the past studies in universities and other institutions. These are all the ethical points that you should keep in mind. Next, while surveying the literature, while doing the literature survey, what are all the points that every researcher has to keep in mind? Number one is go through the literature from the original source, not from the work already used. I got yesterday morning by 7 o'clock, I got one call from one of the researchers in my native place, Trivandrum. She knows me, but I don't know her. Sir, I am so-and-so. I am working in a college teacher. Then I asked, why you call me? Sir, I came to know that you have published one textbook, which is an edited book, which contains various articles on a particular area. My area is like that area. Why she contacted me and why she would like to refer that book is, by referring that book, it is a collection of 15 articles. It will motivate her to collect literature from that book, 15 literature on that 15 articles. Anyway, you should go through the right source. Don't copy the literature that is collected and reported by any other person for your source. Suppose a person who is doing research on customer satisfaction in the case of public sector bank, maybe study conducted in Tamil Nadu or Andhra Pradesh. If you go to that university, you can refer the thesis. You can see how many previous studies have been searched, how many previous studies have been reviewed by that researcher and reported in his report. You can present that in another form. No, this is not what we expect. You should go to the concerned field and you should review the literature by you yourself. Then only you can correctly, and otherwise there may be some communication gap. So in order to avoid that communication gap, what you have to do is you have to go through the original document. Then another point while doing literature review is, do acknowledge properly the contributions of previous researchers. You know, definitely why we are studying a research very properly, I feel that it is 80% because of our previous researchers, because they have done their work very well. What we are doing, we got a very good foundation to know what are all the methods by which we can do research. Suppose you don't have any previous thesis or any previous studies, how do you develop, how do you find the source? It is quite impossible. So you should respect the previous researchers while doing literature survey. You should acknowledge their details also. Without acknowledging, it is cheating their the previous researchers. So it is quite unethical. Similarly, literature review you can present in your own words. Better to present the literature survey results in your own words based on any internationally accepted format. Then another another step in research is framing of objective. After conducting literature review or during the course of literature review, definitely we frame our objective specifically. How do we frame our objective? Definitely it is based on the research problem that we are going to investigate. That is a basis. So based on the research problem that we have identified, we will specifically identify the objectives. What are all the ethical points that every researcher has to keep in mind while framing the objectives? Number one is, you frame your objective strictly based on the research problem. You know, whenever I get any thesis for evaluation, I will see whether the methodology, while the introductory part, whether the researcher has framed the objectives properly. So objectives are framed strictly in line with the research problem that you have identified. Sometimes research problem may be different, objectives may be in another style. It is wrong, it is unethical. This is not the right framing of a method of objectives. Similarly, you never repeat any objectives fulfilled by your senior researchers. I have seen in certain theses, out of my experience while evaluating the thesis, certain objectives may be fulfilled by some other researchers, but it is repeated by the same. It is unethical, quite unethical. Don't do that. It is unethical. Your objective should be very creative. You cannot see that objective in any thesis. Similarly, your objective shall be framed strictly based on the research problem. Thereafter, after developing or identifying the correct objectives, you go to the formulation of hypothesis, tentative solutions. Objectives are the tentative questions, then tentative solutions are hypotheses. Objectives and hypotheses, just like our two hands. What are all the ethical points that you should keep in mind while developing this or formulating hypothesis? Number one is, you should formulate the hypothesis immediately after identifying the objectives. I have seen the practice among the researchers that they frame the hypothesis only after analysis. Only after completing the analysis work, they frame the hypothesis. No. This is not the right practice. It is unethical. If you are a good researcher, it is your duty to frame the hypothesis strictly based on the objective, immediately after identifying the objectives. The next important point is hypothesis should always match with your objectives. Just like our two hand, similarity is there. If this is objective, this will be the hypothesis. If this is another objective, this is another hypothesis. Both should match each other. Then very apt tool, application, very apt tool for testing hypothesis. If you put any hypothesis, it should be tested properly by using apt statistical and mathematical. Otherwise, it is unethical. Then after that, coming into the definition of some operational definition of term, it is also very important. A very integral part of every PhD thesis is definition of terms and concepts used by the researcher. While doing the research, every researcher is supposed to define certain terms and concepts used in his research work. I have seen the practice in certain theses about 100 concepts. No, that is not a good practice. It is quite unethical. You should develop only key factors, key concepts by 10 or 15, which are very creative, very apt in relation to study. So you do only apt terms under the category definition. Another point is, don't quote any standard definition. For example, I have seen some students have defined the term current assets. According to R. and Anthony, current assets are those assets which are in the nature of short term, which we can convert into cash within a short span of. No, this is not what we expect. In our study, current asset means cash in hand, cash in bank, stock only. This is an operational definition as far as research is concerned. So every researcher is supposed to define the terms according to the purpose of the study only. Don't quote any standard definition for that. Then after identifying the definition or the concepts, we are going to the methodology. This is very important. Nutshell or the lifeblood of the research methodology, that is methodology. The adjudicator of the PhD thesis is always very much interested to evaluate the methodology part. If the researcher has succeeded in following the exact methodology to fulfill the objectives of the research work, surely he will be a successful researcher. Otherwise, not at all. How do we ensure? What are all the ethical considerations that you should keep in mind while framing the methodology, developing or designing the methodology of the study? Do one thing, you adopt apt methodology, strictly based on your objective, strictly based on your data, strictly based on the nature of study only. Some studies may be very creative, very few studies, very creative situation. Some studies may be very open studies. Many studies have been conducted. Data are available. So respondents are more. Based on that, you can choose the sampling method, the sample size. Now, many standard statistician formulas are there to determine scientifically the sample size. So, sample size should be large size. Sampling method should be very genuine. You should adopt a systematically scientific methodology. Otherwise, it is quite unethical. Sometimes I have noticed that methodology is wrong. Sampling method is wrong. Sample size is not correct. So, sample size is not determined scientifically. These are all unethical as far as a researcher is concerned. This is not what we expected. Next stage is data collection. After determining the exact methodology that we are going to follow, you can develop a tool for data collection. Then what are all the ethical practices that every researcher has to follow while collecting data? Collecting of data involves a lot of ethics. I have included certain points. I think that you can see all these points. Consent of the respondent should be obtained before data collection. If you collect any data from anywhere or any person, their consent should be obtained. Without getting consent, no data is supposed to collect. Then develop an apt tool for gathering data. Based on the nature of the respondent, you can develop a tool. If you are going to survey illiterate people, how can you develop individually? No, it is not the right method. If you are going to collect data from very busy scheduled people, intelligent, very higher class people, you can adopt only questionnaire, not interview schedule. Or you Google form, you can follow. So based on the nature of the respondent, develop apt tool for data collection. Then conduct a survey personally by the researcher and visit the field for data collection. You should personally visit and conduct the data collection work. I know that there are certain scholars who appoint certain people to assist them to collect data. This is not a right practice. This is unethical. Then how can you say that? Sometimes I may ask certain question during Viva open defense examination to certain student. One day I got one answer from one of my student who appeared before me for conducting YOC examination that I have asked certain queries regarding data collection. She said, sir, openly saying, I didn't visit any centers. Then who collected it? My husband and some other students have collected data. No, this is not ethically, it is correct. It is unethical. Without going into the site, without witnessing the exact situation, how can the researcher can report the correct affairs in the research report? So researcher himself has to go to the field and collect data. Then another thing is, while collecting data, you ensure the confidentiality of the data. It should be very confidentially maintained. Then collect and record data accurately. You collect accurate data, not vague data. If you collect vague data, your result will be incorrect. How can you say that your research work is very good? No. Similarly, data once used for your study purpose shall not be used for any other purpose. That is also very important thing while collecting data. Some more principles are data shall not be passed down to others. You are not supposed to collect, pass down or to transfer your confidential data to others. Data collected should be stored very reasonably. After the fulfillment of objectives, data should not be stored. That is also very essential thing. Then rights and privacy of the respondent should be maintained, well protected. Because why they have given data? Because of the assurance that you will not publish, you will not reveal our identity. That is why. Similarly, no data shall be collected on false promise. You don't give any false promise for collecting data. Don't give an opportunity to create stress situation among data providers that I have already mentioned you. Then, as far as possible, avoid personal matters like personal questions like married life, religious faith, personal opinion, because many people are not willing to answer these. So you avoid as far as possible all these. These are all the ethical considerations while doing the work of collection of data. Next, analyzing of data. While entering the stage of analysis of data, what are all the ethical principles that every researcher has to keep in mind? Number one is process the data collected about the personal matters of respondents very confidentially. Some personal data may be collected. Their age, their average annual income, their health position, their family members, income of the family, everything you have collected because of demographic profile of the concerned employee or a customer. But you are supposed to analyze the data while doing the work of analysis, you are supposed to keep confidentiality about the data. Similarly, proper care should be taken to maintain anonymity in handling the data. You never say that this is filled by this candidate, this is filled by Mr. Rajan or Krishna. Don't say like that. Anonymity is very, it should be 100% anonymous. Anonymity should be maintained. Then use correct data for analysis. Sometimes there may be incorrect data may be used by certain students for data analysis purpose. It is highly ethical. If you use wrong data, without any doubt, you will get wrong answers. How can you say that your work is excellent? How can you say that you are a creative researcher? No. You use correct data for analysis. Similarly, don't fabricate the data at the time analysis. Sometimes there are experts with a view to fabricate the data, manipulate the data. No. No manipulation is not allowed. Because the data is given by the respondent, the correct beneficiary, customer or a employee or some other person, business unit, entrepreneurs. Then what is the right? Who has given the right to manipulate that data? If you manipulate data, how can you get the correct answer? No, that is not ethical. Similarly, drawing exact conclusion based on the findings of the study. Your conclusion should be based on the analysis findings. Analysis is very important. From the analysis, you will get some findings. Based on that findings alone, you are supposed to conclude. Then you are supposed to suggest some suitable topics for further research, surely based on your analysis. Because your analysis will yield you the information that I didn't do that work, this work to that area, I couldn't extend my work to that area. This is suggested for another researcher. You are a junior researcher for doing research work. So these are all the points that every researcher has to keep in mind while collecting data. Similarly, after collection analysis, we go to the reporting of research results, report writing. What are all the important points that everyone is supposed to keep in mind? First one is your report should contain only genuine facts. You write the findings strictly based on analysis. Only factual findings alone should be recorded. You can manipulate, but this is not allowed. If you manipulate the findings of the study, you are unethical. This is not ethical. Don't include any false statement for your self-credit or pleasing any interested parties. Sometimes, you have collected data from an institution where you got assistance and support from many of the executives. Finally, when you analyze the data, you found that some unfavorable results against the institution are found. This is unethical. If you report this in another way, which is most favorable to the higher level officials, no, we are not supposed to do that. Whatever be the finding you got through the analysis, it should be recorded in such a style. Similarly, find the solution of the problem very creatively, strictly based on the findings and conclusions of the study. Whatever solution you are going to develop, it may be only 2 or 3, enough, not 50 or 100, but it should be very creative, just like a doctor. Doctor, when a patient approaches a doctor, the doctor will ask, what is your difficulty? How long you have been experiencing this difficulty? Thereafter, doctor will keep his mouth. Mom, the patient will say that I have this problem. For the last 2 days, I am experiencing this problem. So definitely, doctor will diagnose. Suppose the doctor couldn't diagnose the disease, what doctor will suggest a lab test. He will bring the lab test. Definitely, doctor will verify. Doctor identified that. Okay, this is the test result. So that he is suffering from that disease. Surely, doctor's solution, that is a suggestion of the medicine, apt medicine. Only apt medicine alone is suggested by the doctor for curing the disease of the patient. Likewise, whatever suggestion, recommendation, implication, what you are going to develop, surely based on your findings and conclusions. Don't copy any suggestion, any recommendation from other thesis. This is applicable for their own study. Your study, you have found in another way. In order to solve that solution, you should be creatively developed. Don't include any outcome of other research in your work. Next, the citation practices as well as the reference section or bibliography of the report. While doing the practice of citation, work cited, we are citing certain work. If you quote certain words, certain definitions of the authors in the body part of the thesis, you don't hesitate to cite the reference of the information that you have used. You should correctly quote the reference of the from material from where you have quoted. So accurate references of the literature should be quoted. For example, this is cited, that is Matthew 2002:1113, like that. So everywhere you can see citation is very important. Otherwise, what you are doing, you are stealing some material from others without acknowledging their support. Similarly, while citing the reference section or bibliography, while preparing the bibliography part also, you remember you are supposed to incorporate only relevant references. I have found one very interesting thing, that while adjudicating one PhD thesis on marketing area, the thesis is concentrate only on marketing area, customer satisfaction. What the research student has done is, she added more books on financial management. I found this. Fortunately, Vice Chancellor appointed me as the chairman for conducting IOS examination. I have asked this question. Your study is concentrated on marketing area, but your thesis contains a lot of references related to financial management. Why? She said, sir, I found only minimum books on marketing of my topic, area of marketing of my topics. That is why then it is enough. Whatever area you are dealing with, only genuine references are to be quoted. Don't quote any other unrelated areas. If you are a marketing researcher on a marketing area, you are supposed to quote the books from the marketing area only, not from finance or HR or IT, etc. etc. Similarly, be selective based on credibility. Another important point while preparing the reference section, another ethical point is the credibility is credibility of the author is very important. Suppose you are doing research on management area. It is ethically correct that you should refer the textbook written by Principles of Management by Harold Kuhns and Cyril O'Donnell. Kuhns and O'Donnell. Kuhns and O'Donnell is a credible book in the field of management. That should be acknowledged. That is a very ethical thing. Similarly, another important point while preparing this bibliography part, you are supposed to follow the style, globally accepted style. Otherwise, it is unethical. It is just like the method of a way of dressing. You know, bibliography is very, very important. From the bibliography, the adjudicator can understand whether the candidate has gone through many references, whether he has taken adequate pain and strain to cover most of the areas in which the research area he has completed. So you are supposed to follow a globally one standard, like globally, internationally, a globally accepted style of presentation, namely APA style for the social science researchers. You know, APA style is the globally accepted style followed by social science researchers. APA means American Sociological Association. They have their own style while presenting. I have given this style in one article and one book. Similarly, literature students, they follow MLA style, Modern Language Association of America. Science students, they have their own style. So it is ethical if you follow the correct style applicable to your subject. If a commerce and management studies or economics student adopt APA, it is highly ethical. Otherwise, it is not. So these are all important points that every researcher should keep in mind while doing research work in various stages. Practically, these are all very, very important. Now we can see what are all the ethical practices in research, general practices in research, ethical practices. I have identified some important practices that everyone should follow ethically in order to get a good result. Let us see which are the ethical practices. Number one is, everybody knows, be careful about the plagiarism. Now, you are all very particular in plagiarism. Now, the UGC has given the instruction to all the universities that before submitting a thesis for evaluation, the plagiarism rate has to be certified by the university authorities by using apt software. Every university it is compulsory. So the candidate, after completing the research work, after presenting the work before the elite audience through this pre-submission seminar, candidate has one more duty, that is submit the materials to the authorities concerned to decide whether there is any copy from other theses, whether the thesis is fit for submission as per the prescribed limit of the university. You know, certain universities prescribe specific limit like 30%. This is a 30% limit. I remember MG University, when I was a dean, it was 30%. Altogether, 30% shall be allowed. If the copy of the PhD thesis from others is up to 30%, it shall be allowed. But in Calicut University, this is not the practice. We have divided the work into three. First part, introduction, in which the introduction, literature review, methodology are included. Second part, research results and discussion. Then findings, conclusion, another part. In each part, they have their own prescription. In the introduction part, it shall be up to 15%. If it exceeds 15%, they will never allow. Literature review up to 35, because the literature review is usually the contribution of others. We are evaluating the others' work. We are reporting the others' work in our own language to prove that our work is not researched by early researchers. It is a new area. So up to 35% it is allowed. Results and discussion, only 10%. So 10% results and discussion. So you remember, don't copy the work of others. If you copy the work of others, the rate of plagiarism will be very high. You are not supposed to submit the thesis. You know, now why this system is introduced by the UGC? Why? Because, you know, there are chances for cut and paste after the introduction of the computer system. I remember when I was a research scholar, computer was introduced very initially, but we have no facility. It was very, very rare. Most of the institutions own 1 or 2 computers. So I remember I waited nearly 2 hours, 3 hours for time for getting your permission to print my thesis. Sometimes, certain days, more number of applicants are waiting there for 5 minutes or 10 minutes work. But now, you know, everybody is having laptop. Everybody is having, everybody knows how to print, how to take the print. Your printer is also with you. But there are chances for copying through the net. After the introduction of the internet during 1998, the work of researcher has reduced. The tediousness of the researcher has reduced here very significantly. Now, without going there, by sitting before the computer with internet facility, the candidate is supposed to refer all the materials available in the world under the sun. So there are chances for copying the work of others. That is why this system has introduced. Remember, you should ensure that your work is your own work. Don't copy others' work. Similarly, another ethical practice is don't submit or publish the same paper in more than 1 publishers. You know, sometimes certain students, by changing the name of the paper, they will present the paper in 3 seminars. Similarly, by changing the title and content and modifying the paper, they will submit it for publication in 2-3 places. It is wrong. It is unethical. Now, if you are a good researcher, if you are a very ethical person in the field of research, don't do that. You can submit your work only before a single publisher. Similarly, while including the name of co-authors, there are some ethics. What is the ethics you have to keep in mind? If you include a co-author along with you in that in your article, definitely the co-author should have some contribution directly to the research work. Suppose without any contribution, to get a reputation of that co-author, you are included. No, it is quite unethical. Sometimes you know that husband and wife are working in a college, dealing same subject. The work is done by wife. While publishing the work, her husband's name is also incorporated. Husband has no role. He didn't know whether his name is included in the thesis, in the paper published by his wife. So it is quite unethical. Without any direct involvement on the part of any other person, never, don't include such a person's name in the co-author. Similarly, while evaluating the papers for peer review, you remember, you don't reject that journal, that paper without reviewing it. Some people on seeing the paper, no, it is not suitable. No, don't do that. If you are a peer committee member of a journal or any other book, it is your duty to learn that paper very seriously. You have your own creative contribution, so you can have your own response, you can have your own suggestion, you can have your own comments. Let it know to the concerned author before publishing it, but you don't do the rejection of the paper before going through that. Similarly, don't discuss with your colleagues any confidential data from the paper that you are reviewing from a journal, reviewing for a journal. If you are a reviewer, you got a journal, you got a paper, you have very good friends, but don't you share with your friends about the confidentiality of data. That is also ethical. Then the report should contain only facts based on analysis. You know, facts based on analysis, only facts. Don't state any untrue statement. Don't state any wrong statements. Your statement should be 100% correct, right? No wrong statement shall be included. Similarly, don't use inappropriate statistical tools in order to enhance the significance of your research. Nowadays, I have noticed among the researchers that they are very sincere, they are very particular in adding more statistical tools, because other students will, which are the tools that you have applied this? Whether you have applied some in your work, why we are applying this SEM model or some other tools? Only for fulfilling our objectives. You know, if you want to go to a particular place, you can choose the right mode. If you want to travel long distance, you can choose either an aeroplane or a train. If you want to travel a short distance, only bus or car is enough. Why can't you depend? Why can't you choose any other media which is not comfortable? Likewise, don't use unnecessary statistical tools for your analysis. Your analysis should be done only with the help of apt and appropriate tools. Tool is not the measure. Tool is only a measure used for satisfy your requirements. Sometimes the researchers have a wrong notion that if the number of the statistical tools included in the analysis part of the thesis is very less, no. It will reduce the quality of the research. No. Whatever tool we apply, if the number is less, no problem. It is worthy. It is only for fulfilling the research objective. Similarly, if cited the other's work, acknowledge it properly. If you cite anybody's work, you should acknowledge it. You should cite it properly. Let us one more slide. What are all unethical practices in research? I have mentioned that plagiarism. This is quite unethical. It is a breach of ethics. Don't treat others' data as your own. If you collect data, if you copy any material from others' work and treat it as your own, it is unethical. You are violating the rules and regulations of the research. It is quite unethical. Don't do that. This is purely unethical practice. Similarly, another thing is fabrication of data. Fabrication means you can create data without going into the site. You can fill the questionnaire. You can fill the interview schedule. Never do. You are not supposed to do that. How can you get the correct information? You should go to the site. You should collect the data. Only correct data alone shall be applied for analysis. No fabrication shall be allowed. This is also unethical practice. Another one is falsification data. You know, sometimes certain fraudulent researchers may manipulate the data. Manipulated data means they may change the data. They may omit the data according to the suitability of his fulfillment of the research objectives. You know, sometimes on analysis, they found that our assumption has changed. Our objectives cannot be fulfilled. So we deviate the data accordingly. No. This is not allowed. Whatever be the result of the analysis from the data that you collected from the field, it shall be correct. No. One more thing you remember, no one can question the reliability of the data collected by you from the field. Why? Because it is the respondents. This is the data that I got from the respondents. Nobody can question. So you keep it in mind. Another point is non-publication of the results, non-publication of the data. You know, you can publish the results of the analysis, but you cannot publish the data. You can publish the information, that is output only, not the raw data, because it is the property of the respondent. Never you are supposed to reveal it to others. Don't publish any raw data to others, or through journals, or through books. No data shall be published. Another one is faulty data gathering procedures. Faulty data gathering procedure means sometimes certain tools may be developed, but tool may be incorrect. So incorrect tool development is also wrong. For example, if you want to collect, I have already mentioned, if you want to collect data from a illiterate person, suppose you develop a questionnaire without contacting them, you are filling the data, you are filling the questionnaire and collecting data. So that is unethical. Similarly, failure to keep the research records properly. You are supposed to keep all the materials collected by you very seriously, very confidentially, because it is others' property. You are not supposed to reveal the secrecy of that data. If you fail to keep the data very properly, you are violating, you are unethical. Similarly, stealing data, books and supplies without their permission. Stealing means we are stealing some data by cheating others. Books, materials, record. It is also unethical. Then making unauthorized copies of data, paper, computer program, etc. You are not supposed to take unauthorized copies from the institution where you are going to data collection. So these are some of the unethical practices. So to conclude this, in my opinion, as a research guide for a long period of time, my opinion is every researcher is supposed to keep these principles in mind while performing their research activity from the very beginning till the end. Not only that, ethics are highly inevitable for all the people associated with this academic field, especially in the academic field. How can you guide a student without having these ethical principles? A teacher should be highly ethical. Likewise, a researcher should be highly ethical, because he is doing a socially responsible activity of carrying out a research work by which he is contributing a creative outcome. If the teacher is, if the doctor is, if the lawyer is not creative and not ethical, how can we expect a good society in future? So it is very, very essential. It is very, very inevitable. Okay, thank you for your sincere cooperation for the last 1.5 hours. So with this, my role is over. I have one more duty to interact with you. So please raise your queries, if any, with reference to this presentation. So this is a time of query clarification. Please, audience, please, you can ask any queries.
Thank you, Dr. B. Vijayachandran Pilla, sir, for the informative session. It was an excellent session, sir. Very educative and informative. Now it's the time to clear your queries. Participants can unmute your microphone and ask your doubts and queries to your resource person, or you can post your queries in the chat box. Sir, there is a question raised by Jigyasa Sharma.
Sure.
Sir, how to gain the confidence of respondents in vulnerable areas like right affected or women for that matter? Please elaborate.
Okay, in most cases, we are dealing with the vulnerable groups for data collection. Do one thing, you select a comfortable time and place according to the convenience of the respondents, because they are very vulnerable group, lower strata of the society. They experience economically, they are very poor. So our coming will be a disturbance for them someday, of course. So you just very listen, you understand their problems patiently and approach them according to their convenience. You convince them, your visitor, your purpose, everything. Definitely they will cooperate, because you are going to yield, you are going to produce a socially responsible outcome. Definitely they will cooperate. This is the only method we can apply to convince them.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Another question raised in chat box by CSSRL Hanumanta Rao. Who is responsible for unethical methods in research? Is the scholar or the supervisor? Whom we have to blame?
Now, both the researcher and scholar are fully responsible. You know, definitely I have one experience. Whenever a student who approached me for getting registration for PhD, definitely I will allow him to sit before me. I will tell something about the ethics. I will inquire about the biodata. If biodata is satisfactory, I will tell him or her that I will give you registration provided you are interested to follow the ethics in the research, in the field of research. Otherwise, I am not interested to supervise you. Surely, to a significant extent, the research guide is responsible. Then another thing I would like to mention is, nowadays the researchers' number is increasing very tremendously. Why? Because UGC has introduced. I am a teacher who joined in service before the introduction of UGC. At that time, PhD was not a qualification for college teachers. No incentives from the management. I remember when I went for data collection, by taking leave from my department, the teachers may scold that, oh, why you are collecting data? Why you are spending more time? Why you are spending more money? Like that. That was the situation that I experienced. But now the situation has changed. You are getting adequate motivation because from next year onwards, UGC is planning to introduce a PhD as a mandatory qualification for higher level teachers, without which you are not supposed to join. So, with this aim, many teachers are very particular to acquire PhD by hook or crook. That shall be avoided. Only if they understand the values, ethics, code of conduct in the field of research. So it is with this aim, UGC has introduced one paper for research scholars, that research and publication ethics paper. I hope that with the introduction of this paper, every researcher is supposed to get some knowledge, some fundamental knowledge on this area. So definitely it will motivate the future researchers in observing these rules and regulations. Definitely the researchers, the research guide, research scholar, the government, everybody is responsible for this. There should be some regulatory authority to check whether the research scholars and research guides are adhering all the norms, ethics, principles, moral values while doing the research work. It is highly inevitable.
Okay, sir. Another question by Lopmudra Das. Sometimes our data are biased by nature. Should this affect the research ethics? What we do to avoid this?
It is a duty of the research scholar to avoid the biased data to a minimum possible extent. Sometimes there are chances. Why? Because certain people reveal the data only from their memory. Some figures may be given by certain respondents only out of their memory. In such a situation, how can we ensure that this is correct? It may be wrong. It may be somewhat near it. What is your average income? Without referring, he says that around 50,000 or 60,000, like that. So do one thing here. You be a rapport with them. Create a rapport with them. Be very pleasing manner. You can approach them. Surely they will cooperate. To that extent, you can, to a significant extent, in such a way, you can reduce the bias data, degree of bias among the respondents. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
I have experienced this situation. I was a research scholar.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Another question by Rabin Das. Sir, what are the fieldwork ethics in social science research?
Okay. Fieldwork ethics means, I have already mentioned you that in the fieldwork, now most of the students are very reluctant to go directly into the situation. Suppose you are going to study the problems experienced by fieldwork workers. These migrant workers working in our state, in the field especially, they are experiencing many problems. Suppose you are going to conduct a study among them regarding the savings and investment pattern. You should know the real situation of that people, where they are living, how they are spending money, for which you have to go to the field. Otherwise, how can you say that you are doing a research, you are a genuine researcher? So the only method is, you should experience the situation very genuinely by visiting the site and approaching them properly according to their convenience and time. As far as possible, every researcher, in my opinion, every researcher should have both primary and secondary data. In certain universities, they apply only secondary data. Whenever I go for a PhD open defense examination, I will ask this question: How can you experience? How can you say that you are a researcher, good researcher, without having experience in collecting data from field? Sorry, sir, I didn't collect any field data. My data is related to second. I used only second data only. So this is if you want to become a good researcher, you should have a very good experience in the field visit. You should go there and collect data properly. You should collect data. Okay. Please.
Sir, can I ask a doubt?
Sure, you can. You
Sir, my name is Arun Dev. Sir, I have a doubt in connection with.
Research scholar or a teacher, you are from?
Sir, I'm a research scholar from Mahatma Gandhi University, Kottayam.
Okay, sure. You can.
Sir, I have a doubt in connection with one of the point that you have mentioned about the conceptual definition.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So what we usually do is one concept might be differently defined by different scholars. So we will be selecting one of the definition defined by one scholar in accordance with our study, by considering the suitability of our study. So as you have said, we should not do that. If we define our variable ourselves, is it valid?
Do you remember? Every research work involves certain special concepts, certain terms.
Okay.
This is used by that researcher only. It is only for his research work. Okay. So what every researcher has to keep in mind is that definition should be according to his own style. For example, if your study is confined to a particular private agencies, you can define private agency here means private sector banks. Private sector banks means Federal Bank or New Generation Bank like ICC, like that. Don't copy any definition of others, but it should be in another manner in case of other studies. So do one thing, every definition, whatever be the operational definition or concept that every researcher uses, it shall be only for his work, not suitable for others. And that is why I have mentioned you, current asset means standard definition is there. Asset which can be converted in the form of cash within a short period of time, within 1 year. That is a definition. This is not what we mean. In your study, current asset means only cash in hand, cash in bank, or short-term investments. Like that, it varies. You don't copy, never copy the definition of same concept used by other person in your thesis. I think that you got a very good idea.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got it. Thank you, sir.
Okay.